Hi empaths, welcome back to another pick a crystal reading video. Just noticing which of these tumbled stones is pulling your focus. Feeling your heart open, your heart energy moving up to your head and then flowing out from your eyes into the stone. Sending energy to that stone. On the left we have a tumbled Scolecite. In the middle, a tumbled Chalcopyrite. And on the right we have a tumbled Iolite Sunstone. Just allowing your energy to flow into the stone, and then I'll tune into the stone and see what I pick up. More than one stone may pick up on your energy, so you can either go to the timestamps that will be in the comments or in the description and go straight to your reading, or you might want to check out all three and see if your energy spilled over. All right, let's get started. Hi there to those of you that chose Scolecite. Have you ever seen Scolecite tumbled? It's really lovely. Let's tune in. I'm seeing working out I'm seeing a big crowd, right? With a heightened energy, heightened state, intense and feeling irritation, pangs, even maybe some pain, discomfort in the solar plexus area. So there might be some overwhelm and maybe even some panic that comes in around large crowded space. And that being a challenge right now. If you're watching around the time of the protests, that's kind of the feel of what I'm feeling and experiencing. That may be an overwhelming idea to you. If that's the case, you're being encouraged here that your skills and talents can play a part in this time of change, right? That it might look different than what other people are doing, and that's okay. The solar plexus is the center for our personal power and our boundaries, right? Self-respect, differentiation, which might be a learning curve, right? Particularly if you're an empath, energy sensitive, intuitive. So you might be feeling a lot of discomfort and pain in that area as it sort of shifts and grows. There's also something coming up about responsibility and maybe that weighing heavy, taking accountability for your own healing process, right? We, depending on when you're watching this, we had a lunar eclipse with the full moon in Sagittarius. The lunar eclipse did have an emphasis around looking at what we're carrying that's not ours. This is always helpful for empaths, right? Unpacking those things we're carrying. This can be about responsibility, accountability in relationships, particularly romantic partnership, right? What might be coming up is looking at where are you giving your power away, particularly in those dynamics. It can be related to money. As we often associate money with power, right? But there's also personal power here. So taking accountability for that, not giving our power away, right? Owning our sense of self-respect, self-trust, and owning our power. Maybe the idea of purpose has been coming up for you. What is my purpose? You might want to consider asking what brings you joy, right? What are those things that light you up, bring you joy? I was watching a TED Talk recently from, I think she was an Irish woman, who was saying that maybe it wasn't her. I've watched a lot of stuff, just trying to learn so much, watching all these TED Talks, but one of them I watched, someone brought up the idea of it's not what you do, right, as your job if you want to be highly successful. It's more about how you do it, right? The people that really own who they are, aren't afraid to take up more space, are in joy, in their passion, are fully alive, they tend to find more success. So how are you able to do that? Robert Greene also talks about much of our behavior is avoiding, much of the reason we do a lot of the things we do is avoiding having to confront our own death, right? Which is a dark concept. But he says the sooner we can do that, the more alive we can be, right? As we kind of come alive to the fact that there's limited time, and you know, we're all going to face that, and sort of being confronted with that. He describes it that way, in that he had a stroke and he had I think he considered it a near-death experience, and he found that he was more fully alive after he had confronted his own death. I don't think it has to be that extreme or intense. I also did the soul coaching book. It's called Soul Coaching by Denise Lynn. And there's an exercise called the rocking chair exercise. I think that's the one it was. I can't remember, but what you would want your message to be on your deathbed, and maybe living by those values, right? Not assuming we have all the time in the world. So there's a relationship theme coming up, though. Like, maybe that would be a helpful concept for a relationship, not taking someone for granted. Or how do you not get taken for granted? If a lot of your energy focus is on a person, the person you're paired with, right, or you want to be paired with, that can be felt as pushing energy. And that other person might begin to take you for granted. So can you find new activities, new hobbies, new interests that bring you joy, that bring you passion, and just really take your own happiness into your own hands? And then you have something to bring to the table, right? Because we show up to give to the table of relationship and find someone else who wants to give. So if you're able to take your responsibility there of creating happiness for yourself, right? This rich ecosystem of joy, of happiness, of power, of passion, and find a purpose that gets you out of bed every morning, right? What's the story you're telling yourself about your life and the meaning and who you are? It's important. That can evolve your contribution, right? Getting in touch with your contribution. What am I contributing? What am I contributing in relationship? What am I contributing to the world? Because it becomes, particularly if we're working on personal power here, the ego plays tricks on us, right? It can inflate our sense of self and it can diminish our sense of self. And so how can we get out of that? Think less about yourself, right? What is it we can contribute? What's the legacy here? So maybe part of this releasing what's not yours is expectations that are weighing on you, or the dream someone else had for your life, or every other woman or man in the family did this, so that's the expectation for me, or I'm not going to make waves, right? It's not worth it. I don't have the energy. Avoiding confrontation, right? And then at times comparing yourself to others, that creating envy, instead of unity, right? So solar plexus stuff, right? It's a time of growing in self-trust, doing things that make you feel like you can trust yourself, right? Say no to things that you don't want, right, in your life. Taking back ownership and responsibility and the power of your choice with each decision, owning your time more. There's a big change of breaking free of a pattern. This might have to do with that ego issue of sometimes feeling less than, sometimes feeling better than, right? And when we come from a humble place, we're just thinking less of ourselves and more of what we bring to the table. That can take us out of our suffering, right? So really getting in touch with the stories you're telling yourself. Can you create a narrative that really impassions you, brings you joy, right? Getting in touch with those feelings. It might be a chaotic time where a lot's coming at you, and you're just trying to navigate, right? Those times can feel like chaos. So in this this time, are you able to stay connected as the observer, right? Staying present and online as the observer as you watch these things change and shift and observe what's coming up for yourself, right? Is it coming up to release? Is it coming up to give you a message, right? Listening to your emotions as they come up. And taking right action that you're guided to take. There's a lot of skills, a lot of lessons, a lot of wisdom that you've collected so far on the path. Those are always going to be resources for you. You have a lot of talents, and some are revealing themselves now, right? Maybe purpose is clarifying itself to you. You're getting clearer. You're narrowing down all these ideas of who you thought you were supposed to be, and maybe it's more simple than you ever thought it could be. It might be a time of trying on new things, trying on new thoughts, new beliefs, learning things you never thought you would be learning or looking into or exploring. This actually also makes you more interesting and more of a challenge in relationship too, right? That keeps it interesting, keeps you both growing. You've stuff to talk about. So and it gets you out of a needy place, right? If that's been an issue at all. Scolecite is a great stone. It's actually a great one to carry for either meditation or if you're in a crowd, right? It helps with calming, stillness, getting into the stillness, right? Maybe that's why that came up. Getting into the stillness, the observer, instead of being caught in the storm yourself. It's also helps you with more teamwork, right? Working together in unity towards a common goal. So that can be helpful if you're building a relationship or maintaining one, right? Working together. Maybe teamwork is coming up for you, building a team or learning to work together. And you have some talents that maybe you didn't know you have that are coming into play, and you're surprising yourself. You're also learning that there's information out there, right, for you to add to the arsenal, right, to arm yourself with. That learning that you're stronger, more resilient, more resourceful than you could have ever imagined. Yeah, and your purpose will inspire you and inspire joy in you. Yeah, I think you're learning big lessons right now about personal power, maybe, and what true humility is, right? Maybe you've been avoiding confrontation, and now you're learning, if I think less, it's not about thinking less of myself, it's about thinking about myself less. What's my contribution? All right, I hope that's helpful. Let me know in the comments if that made sense, if that was on point for you. If you chose the Scolecite. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, empath. Hi there to those of you that chose the Chalcopyrite, the tumbled Chalcopyrite. It's a nice piece of it. Let's tune in and see what's coming up. So Um, there might be this kind of undercurrent of, like, it's not quite on the radar, but it's kind of lingering there, of this sentimental, maybe nostalgic pull. That's maybe memories are surfacing from childhood, or eerily similar feelings, emotions, circumstances, conversations that take you back, or people sharing stories of childhood, of your childhood, or, right, like something bringing you back to childhood. And maybe you felt very alone in childhood. Lack of belonging, or no one understood, or your feelings got invalidated or dismissed a lot, right? Maybe you just felt like you were going it alone. Maybe part of you still feels that way. And this child, this inner part, right, this child part is kind of craving your comfort and attention and validation for soothing. But there's this kind of protector in place to make sure you don't feel that vulnerable again, right? Or to block the lonely feeling. You don't want to feel that way. Maybe this part that's blocking is stoic or avoidant or angry, right? Whatever it takes to not feel that feeling of disempowerment again. But what's the treasure that might be hiding in that inner child part is a true sense of self, right? The boldness of a child, the sense of who you really are, right? Before we start to become really self-conscious and compare ourselves to other people, and, right, we start to get really self-aware and categorize ourselves, and just start to decide who we are, right? Or that gets decided for us. So there's this inner child part that is maybe crying for your attention, but it's subtle because it's something you've blocked for a long time. Maybe it's getting louder and you don't really understand the emotional. Maybe you're tearing up easily right now, or there's a sentimental feeling, or you want to watch movies from childhood or listen to music and songs from that time. Right, you're taking a lot of space. Maybe you just need space away because you're processing a lot right now. Maybe there's a question of who you really are. Maybe you're questioning that. What do I really value? How do I stand in integrity? Well, I'm true to myself. Who's that? Maybe all these questions are coming up and you're really exploring that. What's being highlighted is childhood. Who were you as a child? What did you like when you were a child? What did you talk about when you were a child? I have a little cousin, a younger cousin. He's a man now, but when he was a little boy, I have this story coming in. He was younger, and he was probably 5 or 6, and he wanted to make some extra money. So he wrote a sign that said, "Strong man will move rocks from your yard." And he was just a little boy, but it was the cutest thing. And I remember my aunt showed me that in front of him, and she was really proud of him. And it was it was just the sweet, I don't know, it was just the cutest, sweetest thing. But it had that emboldened energy of, I don't have any limitations, right? So you're kind of being asked to get back in touch with that child before that essence, right, was been covered over or blocked, or protector parts were put in place so that you didn't feel that vulnerability or weakness again. So going back to the boldness of childhood before the limitations. That also happens as we get older too, right? Older people have less limitations, or less self-conscious behavior, right? Where they avoid who they really are. They're more themselves too. They hit a point where they realize, I have more time behind me than in front of me, so I'm just going to become who I am. Something like that's coming up. Really getting to know yourself, what you value. And part of that will be exploring childhood memories, just going back there. Chalcopyrite can actually help because it helps with meditation. Interestingly, it also unblocks and activates chakras. But what it can also do is, it's known as the finder. It helps find lost objects and things like that. Some people will say that they'll lose it, they'll drop it, or they won't be able to find it, and it's collecting information for the wearer that's needed. So maybe that's part of this time too. It's like learning who you are, coming more into a state of your uniqueness, this bold statement of who you are. Because if that's fuzzy, it's hard to stand in your integrity, right? And take right action that you feel, right? You're living in your own good opinion. If you don't know who you are and that's still kind of fuzzy, we're getting back in touch with that really bold child, right? Who was maybe silenced because of a wound. So taking space to maybe meditate, get back in touch, do an inner child meditation, or exploring activities and things that you're interested in to get back in touch with that feeling, right? If you're able to, asking people that knew you at that time if they would remember, like maybe adults from that time who would remember if you ever talked about what you wanted to be when you grew up, if they ever asked you that, or what your activities you really loved, right? Because we forget these things. Sometimes watching old footage that my dad would video a lot and ask us questions, interview us, my brother and I, and I wanted to be a ballerina and a mother. I said those two things a lot. And I did dance for a long time, and I love the performing arts. But that playful, youthful part, right? Maybe that's not my career path, but I still love dancing, right? I still, that inner child is still there and wants to express. So listening and getting in touch with emotions as they come up and listening to them as messengers too, right? Like if the angry part comes up or the stoic part comes up, or whatever you sense is protecting you from the inner child. For example, I had a friend reach out and they were saying, I feel guilty for posting stuff right now on social media, but I shouldn't. And then, so a guilty part presented, right? And then this angry part showed up you know what, I'm angry because, and I was like, hi, angry. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for protecting this person, right? Thank you for protecting. Can we talk to guilty for a moment? Would you mind stepping aside? Because, see, the guilty part feels weak, right? So we cover it up with another part. That can sometimes be an emotion. So I had already been talking to guilty, right? So I asked anger if it would step aside for a moment while I talked to guilty. And then we kind of uncovered what that was about, right? So, and that can be incredibly unburdening, right? Because you might find it's not yours. You might find there's a childhood wound there, right? Where your feelings were dismissed, or you weren't allowed to have needs, right? So if we can unpack that, it'll be so much easier for you to shine, right? And unblocking some of those energy centers with, if you have Chalcopyrite or any energy clearing or energy healing modality that you're into. You might also find you're just craving different foods as this starts to work out. I've been noticing that. Like your regimen with food is different. Maybe the food choices are different. Maybe you're no longer, maybe part of the thing you use to cover up this inner child is eating. Maybe that's shifting up. You're craving less heavy foods maybe, or you're taking better care of yourself that way. And that's giving you more vitality. That's promoting this sense of emboldenedness, if that's a word. Yeah, just really getting good at listening. Building self-trust that way. Understanding your values. Understanding yourself more. And as you understand yourself and empower yourself with that and stand in your integrity, you'll attract other people that are doing the same. That can shift dynamics in relationships, right? You might find you're less approval seeking because you found the inner child feels validated and heard, right? So you're not seeking it outside of yourself, and it improves your relationships. You're able to stay aligned, not come out of yourself, changing your behaviors to seek approval. That's part of standing in your integrity too, right? And not coming out of yourself and coming out of the alignment to your values and integrity to please others, which makes you feel awful, doesn't it? Yeah, looking back at who you really are, right? There's this is coming in as well. My mother always tells a story of this little boy at the doctor's office who, when I was a baby, I think I was just a little girl, and a little boy of a similar age kept like ripping the toys I was playing with, the book I was reading out of my hands, stuff like that. I don't know exactly what happened. Like because I was so little. But she said that the mother kept bragging about how strong her boy was, her little boy, and he kept like I want to say bullying, but yeah, like just coming over and stealing a toy I was playing with. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll read this book. And then my mom said he ripped the book out of my hands. And eventually I just got so frustrated that I pushed him and he landed in the trash bin. And my mother tells it like this heroic tale, like I was this tough fireball that you never wanted to mess with, and that I was just trying to mind my own business, and this bully comes over and I wouldn't put up with it. And if I look back and I tell myself that story of I don't put up with stuff, like I'm not going to put up with your BS, I get stronger, right? I feel bolder. I feel like I can confront things because that informs me about myself, right? So kind of collecting maybe those stories, looking back at those moments that were maybe told over and over again. Maybe you've forgotten who you really are. That you mind your own business, but don't mess with you, right? You're all for peace and people doing their own thing, but don't mess with, your boundaries. Something like that, right? Just being more of who you are and really aligning to your values. And maybe just taking some space when you can to meditate on what that means for you. All right, I hope that resonated. I hope that had some meaning. Check out the other readings to see if there's information there for you. If you need a personal reading or session or to donate, that'll all be in the description. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Hi there to those of you that chose Iolite Sunstone. There's just a little speck of sunstone on this side. If you can see it at the top there. It'll focus. See at the top? Isn't that cool? So a touch of sunstone in the Iolite. Let's tune in and see what's coming up. So, maybe you have a vision of something you'd like to create or bring into the world that you think might, you see a need for it, maybe. This creative vision and maybe there's been some hiccups in the process of bringing it down into the physical world. Maybe there's some cords of fear attached to fear related to finances or loss of status came up. So maybe there's some fears here that are coming up about money, financial security, stability, or if this creative idea would be profitable. Because you definitely see there's a need for it. And it might have to do with community, family unit, right? Feeling, maybe it's even inspiring or motivating people to come out of this focus of material goods that they feel is a path to happiness, and realizing how important it is to be part of a community. And maybe family. Maybe there's an awareness you have, or you have a lot of gratitude for family, chosen family, a network of support and stability. And there's a message in your heart about how that's more important than material possessions. Iolite Sunstone is a stone of vision. It's a visionary stone. And the Sunstone helps bring that vision down into the earth plane, right? Anchor it down. So it's a great stone for creative artists, writers, creators of all kinds, right? To bring the project into fruition. So maybe there's a lesson you've learned, maybe a regret you have along the path that you learned a lot from, of for a time valuing money or status or possessions over people, and you learned that that doesn't lead to happiness, that what actually creates happiness is this sense of belonging that you have in community with your family, and that sense of gratitude pulled the focus away from money and finances, but fueled you, right, in order to be more fruitful. Or maybe you're trying to learn those dynamics, right? Sometimes when we focus our attention on something, it's not actually the right thing to be focusing on for the outcome that we're seeking. So looking at that, what will keep you going? Because maybe money just isn't motivating anymore, right? Maybe that's what this is about. Shifting values. What is important here? Maybe you've been waking up without motivation. Maybe you're very tired and maybe even caffeinating. And what's being asked here is a shift in focus, in values. What are you focusing your mind on? What are you saying to yourself, right? Getting right with your relationship to life. What is that metaphor? What is that relationship? It can be informed by many things. So maybe you're breaking that down for yourself right now. Things might be coming up to be released. Don't attach, don't hold on too tightly, let it go, right? Things that are ready to go. There might be cords of attachment to things like fears or relationships from the past that need to be cut away right now. You might find people are coming into your life, and it might be a time of putting stronger boundaries, firmer boundaries around people that are not healthy for you, that that you have a toxic dynamic with, right? That aren't willing to change or work on things. And then maybe there are some people who it's time to make amends with, right? So there might be this idea of discerning that based on values, right? Do your values align? Do you both respect each other? Are you both growing, right? So there might also be this cutting cords from the past in order to move forward on a new leaf. And maybe gratitude, a gratitude practice is being called for. What are the things you're truly grateful for? Because oftentimes we find that the material things that we thought would bring us the most happiness, right? If I could just get that, that we get it in our hands and get desensitized very quickly, right? And then they need the next thing, and it just becomes this endless cycle. So there might be this revelation about what's really important, that it's the relationships we cultivate. And maybe there are some friends that are really stepping up and being there for you, and that's revealed right now. And maybe there are some that aren't showing up with anything good. You're just not interested, right? So you're learning to not feel obligated. That's a great thing. You might be finding that people from the family you were born into are actually pretty toxic for you. Maybe you weren't aware of it for a long time, and you have to make the judgment call as to whether you can work this out, right? If you can assert a boundary or ask for changed behavior and move forward differently, or if it's beyond repair, right? If that wouldn't work out. Maybe you're also finding that you feel more supported and closer to chosen family, right? That the people that you really value, that are really irreplaceable in your life, are those people that when you met, you grew together, right? There's this evolution that's taken place, and they remind you of things about yourself that you forget, and they see things in you, they champion you, they challenge you, and that you're learning that's valuable. There might be an emphasis on group dynamics. I'm not sure why that came up. Team building, group dynamics. Something that I had watched recently, Robert Greene was being interviewed, and he gets hired by, he is an author. He wrote books about power and human nature and war, right? Strategies of war, things like that. Really understanding human nature and what makes us human, right? What is a human? He talks about people who are in power and they're wondering why they can't get past a certain point in their career, or so they'll hire him to consult about what they're doing right, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong in their career. Why are they hitting the ceiling? He found that so often the mistakes they were making was choosing the wrong people to either be their personal assistant or to hire or get on their team, right? They were choosing the wrong people. So maybe there's something to this. Maybe maybe you have a self-image, or you've created or told yourself a narrative about yourself when it was simply there were you had chosen the wrong people, right, to keep interacting with. And it started to eat away at how you saw yourself, how you valued yourself, how you trusted yourself. So it might not have been you. You might want to take a look at who you're surrounding yourself with, right? Who are you going to confide in, right? Who are you having conversations with? Who are you learning from, right? Maybe this is the team you're building. What authors are you reading? Who are you listening to speak? What friends are you entrusting, right? The deepest parts of you with. And what are those things you're really grateful for? And what are those things that you need to create a boundary around? Amends. There's an emphasis on making amends, whether that be with yourself, right? For allowing yourself to be exposed to this toxic behavior, and no more, right? Owning your power around that. Or is there someone you hurt along the way that you need to apologize to? Or maybe people are coming to you and you're deciding how to respond to them with whatever they're bringing in, right? However they're approaching, right? Either way, there's this sort of leveling up, right? Leaving things behind that don't work, creating stronger bonds, and realizing that's what life's all about. That's actually equity in life, right? That's what's important, or those connections, those bonds. Those relationships are what make life worth living, right? Not the possessions, not a fat bank account. So, and once you start valuing who you surround yourself with, then you'll wake up with that without the heavy feeling, right? That'll start to alleviate. You'll feel more valued. You'll feel more cherished. You'll feel excited to wake up and talk to the people that you love and value as you forge those connections and strengthen those bonds. That's what makes life worth living. I hope that was helpful. That might actually be what you're sharing as well, right? How to take care of yourself, how to take care of your needs, and part of that be how to grow your relationships, how to bond, how to deepen your bond. There's a vision here maybe you're having of creating that for yourself, or and getting those tools, or teaching other people how to do that, how to create a great team around you, a team of people, team of friends, loved ones, and how that will be your greatest resource. Networking, something like that. It's about relationships being more valuable. And there being a great need for that right now. Understanding group dynamics and strengthening the bond in relationship, right? How to do that. And that may prove to be prosperous for you, right? If you keep your values in line and maintain your self-care. All right, I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if that resonated, if the story that came in worked for you. Love that sunstone in the iolite. Yeah, so let me know in the comments. Thanks for liking and subscribing to the channel. Let me know how it resonated. Check out the other crystal readings. Just see if your energy leaked out into those. And if you need your own reading or session, or to donate to the channel, I'd be so grateful. Those links are in the description of this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye, empath.